type in some words and you can get it right now and understand where you've come from and how special you are.
Can I just end with this one thing? These four brothers sitting here, we didn't all come from Africa. And there was a country before 1492, and our history goes way beyond 1492. So you can't start us at 1492. We were always here.
Welcome to the Dark Times channel. So this is not going to be a very long video at all, but I wanted to take a second to go ahead and chime in on what the legendary Hall of Famer, 12-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion, 1-time Finals MVP, 5-time All-NBA legendary Isiah Thomas had to say in regards to Kyrie Irving. And Isiah Thomas, for those of you who are too young to remember, or maybe are not old enough to remember Isiah Thomas as the player, let me tell you something about Isiah Thomas. Isiah Thomas, that dude was probably one of the most ferocious players ever to play the game of basketball. He was undersized and would mix it up with anybody. And when I mean anybody, I mean anybody. And I'm talking about the biggest and the baddest dudes on the team. He would let them have it. And Isiah Thomas played, when they actually used to let him get off a little bit. They used to let him throw those hands, but then players started making $20 and $30 million a season. And they was like, nah, it's not worth, losing a player for a few games. And so now if you see two players go at it, everybody in the audience, everybody at home knows that they're not going to fight. At the end of the day, somebody's going to step in between them. Usually the whole team is going to step in and try to hold everybody back. Nobody's going to run on the court. And so there's no real threat of violence in today's game. And subsequently, you have a lot of fake tough guys in the league today. A lot of these guys wouldn't say or do some of the things they do, if they knew that there was actually a real threat of violence coming their way if they crossed the line. And for those of y'all that are not too familiar with Isiah Thomas, you may have been too young to watch him play in his prime. And I kind of fall in that same category myself. I kind of caught him on the tail end of his career, and he was actually still putting up pretty good numbers. He's one of the few players that I can remember that was putting up numbers at the end of his career that were similar to his prime. Injuries, of course, were probably the main reason that Isiah had to hang him up. Isiah Thomas was probably one of the most cerebral players to ever play the game. So if it wasn't for injuries, Isiah Thomas could have had easily an 18 to 20 year career. As the case may be, he wound up having 12 really good years with the Detroit Pistons. He's the kind of player that could have went out and got 40 every night. He had that level of skill and tenacity in his game to be able to do it. And so that being said, Isiah Thomas responded to a tweet and a lot of the different chatter that's been going on out there as far as the Nets being a better team or being better off without Kyrie. And I saw that. I knew that was going to happen the moment they suspended Kyrie, because the Nets were already off to a bad start, and it definitely wasn't because of Kyrie. And so Isiah Thomas is going to allude to the real reason why the Nets are winning. And so Isiah Thomas tweeted, "The Nets with the new head coach Jacques Vaughn defensive schemes see below. Let it be known. That's the reason, not the absence of the player." I don't have the stats in front of me, but the Nets, before they fired Steve Nash and promoted Jacques Vaughn, were one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And right now they're sitting at number 1 in defensive rating and number 1 in net rating. And so it's crazy to hear the media try to spin this narrative that somehow the Nets are better off without Kyrie Irving, who's still one of the best players in the league. And so Isiah Thomas is definitely a high-level thinker. And he knows that if the media keeps pushing this narrative, sooner or later their fan base is going to accept it as reality. And that would allow the Nets to part ways with Kyrie Irving or just go ahead and cut him all together without suffering any backlash from their fan base. So allegedly the NBA has done a lot of GM polling in regards to, would GM sign Kyrie Irving to a deal right now. And supposedly 11 of 11 GMs said they would not sign Kyrie Irving. And so basically what that means, if the Nets would have cut Kyrie Irving, he would never play in the NBA again. If 11 teams wouldn't sign Kyrie Irving, that means nobody is touching Kyrie Irving. And so the NBA media or whoever the powers at be are trying to give themselves options, basically. So if Kyrie, for whatever reason, doesn't want to play ball and he doesn't want to jump through whatever hoops that they want him to jump through next, they've got this in their back pocket. They'll be able to cut Kyrie Irving and say, look, he's just not helping our team and he's not worth the headache. And then the rest of the teams will follow suit. You know, they'll say he's just too much of a liability. He's not worth the risk. We know how the story goes. And so shout out to Isiah Thomas. It's good to see some of the OGs and some of our legends speaking out and coming to Kyrie's defense. And like I said, Isiah Thomas is somebody that is definitely a high-level thinker. And so he's smart enough to understand the writing on the wall and what they're trying to do to Kyrie. Isiah Thomas is somebody that has had a very public beef with Michael Jordan. And from Isiah's point of view, I don't think he cared for Michael Jordan's success off the court, because from Isiah's standpoint, Isiah felt like it was unwarranted. Like I said, Isiah Thomas was about winning. Isiah Thomas was going to sacrifice his numbers in order for his team to win. So from Isiah's point of view, he couldn't understand or he couldn't relate to a player like Michael Jordan, who was going to be flashy, he was going to put up 30, 40 points, and he was going to lose in the first or the second round. You know, and at that time, the NBA was definitely shining a light on Michael Jordan, as it should. Michael Jordan was the show, he was the attraction. But like I said, from Isiah's point of view, Michael Jordan had done nothing to warrant the kind of attention and the kind of success that he was getting off the court. And so Isiah Thomas really didn't have a disdain for Michael Jordan really until the Dream Team came around. They had the Dream Team, and it was supposed to be, you know, the best collection of talent within the NBA at that time. And Isiah Thomas was left off. And Isiah Thomas is on record in saying that he believes Michael Jordan had a lot to do with that. There's no actual proof that Michael Jordan had actually anything to do with that. You know, just from a common sense standpoint, if Michael Jordan wanted Isiah Thomas on that team, he would have been on that team. And at that time, Isiah Thomas was a two-time champion. He was arguably one of the best point guards in the league at that time. And the Dream Team was one of the most historic teams in history. And like I said, Isiah Thomas is a very high-level thinker. So he knew what the historical significance of that team was going to mean in the future. And he knew that his name and his legacy was not going to be cemented among those other players. That really hurt Isiah. That really pissed him off. They clearly, to this day, do not like each other. It's like I said, Isiah Thomas is a somewhat conscious individual, and Michael Jordan is not. It's like oil and water at times. 9 times out of 10, all they're going to care about is material things and carnal things. And so that's just my 2 cents on why Isiah Thomas and Michael Jordan could never get along. And so let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And as usual, peace and chaos.